What I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like Live. Again, I'm Jared Ball, happy to be your host. Please, of course, make sure you have, if you have not already, and double check just to make sure, just in case, that you are all signed up and subscribed at the hot blackpowermedia.org and following the equally new and hot Twitter at Black Power MEDI, the number one, Black Power Media 1. So that you don't miss anything that I and my colleagues and comrades are doing. Obviously, again, the channel continues to grow and expand. The morning show is on its way, 5 days a week, all morning, all Black Power Media. So you want to make sure that you're all, ready to get in touch with all of that and beyond. There's just so much more stuff coming, including good people. We heard, a few people said that the last episode of the last Dope Intellectual was a little short. We've heard questions about, are there going to be more guests? We've heard questions about, are there going to be new segments? All of that and more has been resoundingly answered in the forthcoming episode 4 of The Last Dope Intellectual with Dr. Sharice Burden-Stelly, premiering, that is, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here at Black Power Media. It's a fire show. And she responds, well, there's a lot that's discussed, including, will there be foul language used on this channel? So yeah, you don't want to miss that. There's so much more, a lot of goodness coming up on that episode. So please be sure to, if you're not checking it out live at 7 o'clock tomorrow, that you are certainly preparing yourself to catch up to it shortly thereafter. Anyway, so listen, obviously there's been a lot, and we've been trying to cover it as much as possible. There's been a lot surrounding the release of Judas and the Black Messiah. We've interviewed Fred Jr. I offered my own review early on. We've had Rosa Clemente on to talk about it. I'm sure there will be more eventually. No Name, whose show is going to drop on this channel sooner than later. She may come by at some point to talk about her experience with the soundtrack and her views of the film and art and activism. So there's a lot more that we'll be doing. But as a result, I've had the pleasure of being reached out to by 2 members of the family of a comrade of Fred Hampton, who admittedly I fall, prey to this, or guilty, victim or whatever of this as well, of, putting all of the attention on Fred Hampton and sort of passingly referencing the fact, if at all, that there was another brother killed that night who was there on duty, depicted in the film as well, Defense Captain Mark Clark. And these 2 women who reached out, one of whom is here today, the other I think will join us at some point at her convenience, have had a lot to say, and it was impressive and powerful and emotional and inspiring and all these things to have heard from them, and to, in this case, have arranged for us to hear from at least one of them, and that is, of course, the niece of Mark Clark, who, among many other things, is the founder of Exponential EduVentures. 20 years ago, she said, she started her public service as an elementary school teacher. In 2019, she retired as a school principal to run her part-time consultant business on a full-time basis. Genuinely, she says that it's not to impress you, but to impress upon you, because her beginnings were very humble. She says she rose from a college dropout and welfare mom to earning 3 degrees and leading a multi-million-dollar organizations. So it is without a shadow of a doubt, she says, that She knows that she has been assigned to help others live life in their purpose and maximize their full superpowers. There's so much more you can learn about her at her website, BrigitteBrownJackson.com. And of course, I am talking about none other than Brigitte Brown Jackson. Welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for having me.
So as I said from the beginning, I mean, it was an honor to have heard from you and to have heard from you in the way that you reached out and for the reasons you reached out, and to be able to then subsequently say, we would be happy to hear from you directly if you wanted to share anything more publicly. You've agreed. So I just wanted to ask you initially to lay out from your perspective as Mark Clark's niece, what is it that drew you to this channel or to this conversation, and what is it that you have come here to say and to share?
All right. Well, thank you. Your one of your episodes, and it was before the movie actually came out. I had been scrolling, and to be honest with you, I've been very, very busy with some projects and working with some different clients. So I had not really been watching TV. I really rarely watch TV. If I watch it, it's with a purpose. And so I happened to see a couple things. We have a family call, a Clark family call every month, and we had a family call. And one of my cousins brought up about the movie, and I had seen the previews, but I kind of dismissed it. Unfortunately, our family was not contacted and reached out to, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm gonna go first. Why I reached out to you, uh and he started sharing some things. It was my cousin Michael, and he started sharing some different things and start talking, and I was like, oh, okay, need to look into. So I got on YouTube, and then I got into social media and start seeing what was going on. He had been watching the post and listening to some of the commentaries before the movie had came out here. It had the Sundance, but here, and you were talking about it on one of your episodes. And before I watched yours, I watched some other ones. And I will tell you, I'll be honest, I'm a behavior consultant. I help people work with behaviors. I help people, again, work with their EQ, for people to know that emotional intelligence. I help people work with that. I had to work myself through that. But I stumbled upon this um, Black Power Media. And oh my God, I sat there and your words were literally like food. I was eating it up because you were probably the first person, you were the first person, but I'm gonna say you were the only person that really was honest and having some good dialogue. And so that drew me. I reached out to you and I said, thank you. All I wanted was to just let you know I was happy over your commentary. I was happy that you had put some things out there because as an educator, I'm very sensitive to what our children listen to and hear. They're not like, I'm assuming you probably like me, Dr. Ball, you probably in my generation. And so our generation a little bit different than the generation that's coming behind. And especially the one that's coming behind that one. I have a 7-year-old grandson, and I'm like, I'm careful about what he hears and how he hears it because some people take truth to matter just because they saw it somewhere. And so I like I say, I was living, I hadn't even seen the movie. I just seen the previews and I just seen what people were saying. And I was really, really proud of the fact that you brought out some really good points. So I just want to honor you and say thank you, my brother, for, doing that. Yeah.
Well, no, I appreciate that, but anyway, I appreciate that. So I mean, but you did express some particular concerns in the email, beyond the kind words that,
Yeah.
About how your uncle is remembered or not. You already mentioned a little bit about the lack of contact with the film and the project, with your family. So I wanted you to be able to, I'm assuming now you've seen the film.
Yes, I watched it.
Okay.
Actually, I watched it a couple of times because I had to go back and
Okay.
rewatch some of the stuff that you said, and then I went back and watched it again. I said, I saw it this time because the first time, to be honest with you, when I was watching it, I was so in my emotions. I didn't see it. I mean, it was stuff
Okay.
in the first 5 minutes that I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. So I sat down, I watched it first by myself. And then the second time I watched it with my husband, and he was sitting there, he said something. I said, I didn't even see that the first time. So yeah, I watched it with a different lens. But yes, I was very upset because and I've always been upset. I've always been upset when the topic is brought up because I was 3 years old, so I don't remember anything. But I was 3 at the time of my uncle's death, And my the reason why I'm positioned where I am and what I do and just the life that I've been able to lead, it was because of his legacy. And so we sometimes I get frustrated because I do say he's like an asterisk in history, taking nothing from Chairman Fred. Chairman Fred really was an incredible leader. Our families are close. Our families are tight. I talked to Chairman Fred Jr. Before it came out. I talked to him after it came out. And that kind of, soothed a couple things too as well, because I could understand, appreciate where he was coming from. But I had some issues still, again, with some of the things in the movie, because again, I'm an educator, and our children watch movies and think that everything is absolutely the honest 100% true. And so anyways, the humanizing, of I'll say, like Baba Daruba said the other day, just Flint. Like we're gonna humanize his element. And I felt like in the movie, my uncle was almost kind of dehumanized. The soundbite, even, I wasn't pleased. And like I said, we haven't had a family conversation since the movie came out, because we still have family members who are still watching it. But I'm quite sure we have next week is our family meeting, so we'll probably talk about it and discuss it. I've individually talked to people. My mother, my aunts, and my aunt Gloria have been on, and several different platforms to be able to talk about it. She has a book. My aunt Rose has a book. I have a book. So we're trying to share his story. And so people understand he wasn't just an asterisk. He had a lot of great things that he had done. And so my life is an envelope of all of that. So my mother, when I was going through, you read my bio, I put that on there because that was such a crucial part of my life. I was 23 years old and I think I had nothing to live for. And I kind of got down and out. And so I appreciate you being an African American studies um, professor and everything, because that's what switched my life. I was attending the University of Michigan here in Flint, and I had a professor, and we were having a Black Power conversation. And that took me down a whole wind because we started talking about my uncle, and people in the classroom knew things that I didn't know, like intimate details and things like that. And so I was just like, wait a minute, wait. I had stuck my chest out because I thought, nah, this is a conversation I can get into. And so I went to my mother's home, and when I got there, she sat me down and she shared some things with me. And some of the stuff she shared, I still had, but the piece that shared me, she blew me away, actually put me into shock, because it changed me. She said his last words to her, she had dreamed that he had died. She went to him and begged him not to go to Chicago, but he left Peoria anyways. My aunt Gloria recounts it when her and my grandmother and my uncle drove him to Chicago and dropped him off in Chicago. And their last words to him was like, again, don't go. Come on, come to Flint with us. Because at that time, my grandmother had relocated to Flint, because we had several deaths in our family. So he was the third death within a year's time. So it was hard. We were in trauma. Our family, my grandmother was, again, living in trauma, but she was a strong woman. But what happened was, my mother, she told me that story, and she said, but he pointed into the floor where I was playing. My cousin Mike was playing. He was 1 and I was 3. And he said, I gotta go. And he pointed to us and said, I have to do this for them. That changed my whole life. At the time, I was neglecting the responsibility of being who I was. At that time, I was living carelessly, not really paying attention to the power that I had within. And then when she told me that, it shook me. I got my act together. I went from a 1.6 GPA. I had dropped out for 3 years before I had gotten back. This was my first semester back, and I was ready to quit. And I graduated with honors that year. I mean, 3 years later with my degree, and then went on to become an educator, which I wasn't even going into that field. But once she told me, like, sat me down and really told me the heart of who my uncle was, it changed my whole life. And so I'm very sensitive to it when I see different things, because we don't understand how a story can really change something. And so I'm really sensitive to history. I'm really sensitive to making sure that it's factual and stuff too.
Sorry,
So,
tell us again. So tell us who was Mark Clark,
okay.
beyond the soundbite, beyond the asterisk, and what did you see in the film that disturbed you in particular?
Well, again, my family has continued to tell his story for years. And we've had trying to do things. I have an uncle, he's deceased now. He actually had a museum, and being a principal, I had the opportunity to do what I wanted to do because I was a principal in charter school. So I kind of got a little bit more carte blanche than I would have had I been in a traditional public school setting. And so he would bring this museum to us and talk, and we made sure we had a Black Power Black Panthers display, and we talked about the Black Panther movement and as well as the whole Black Power movement. So my uncle's story, like I say, is out there for those that we've been able to touch and impact. But he basically, he was a fighter for the people. He was an activist, through and through. Again, even his last days, his last week of life, he could have had the choice to bow out, but he didn't choose to bow out. He knew that he had something to fight for. He knew what he was getting himself into. He knew when he went. And so the part that's in the movie that outrages me the most was, how he introduced himself, to William O'Neill. Not first of all, my uncle wasn't one for limelights. If you notice, you don't see a lot of pictures of him and things like that. He was one of those background people. He was going to do the work. He was a leader, but he was in the background. I'm a DIS certified consultant. So one of the things we call that the S style personality. He's supportive. He was about the people. He was a leader, but he did a lot of things, but he didn't like to have limelight and to do all of that. And so that piece right there, kind of perturbed me a little bit. Even the scene where he's actually shot. Just the I was talking to one of my cousins, and he was like, how it made him seem like he was squirmish and as if he was. And again, I don't know, what their methods and what their motives was for, some of the things. But I'm like, you have a leader. He started a chapter. He was a leader. He brought people from Peoria to Chicago. They had again interactions and training. He was going around and learning and everything. And so we never hear that part. And I'm even learning more and more as I age and I get older. The story that I got when I was 23 is totally different so many decades later. So it's a difference. But he was a fighter for the people. In Peoria, he championed things and he started young. So, in the movie, they do have that part, right? He did start with the NAACP. And so he did a lot of things that he was championing again for the cause of the people. He had such a good heart, and he cared about people. He cared about children. He didn't have any children. And so, like I say, I take it very personal. And I know I have to remove myself sometimes because, when I hear the stories, I hear people start talking about him, I kind of take on the persona like he was my daddy, and he wasn't. I had a dad. And, but just how his last words to my mother impacted me for the rest of my life. And so I just want people to understand the human side of him. We spent a lot of time in that watching that movie, seeing, William O'Neill be humanized, and I think that was the part that really took me there. Lord Lakeith's. And I say this in all, transparency, but I also say this in I don't know him, and I understand he's an actor. But when he was on one of the platforms doing his interview, and he was like, I was feeling him, but then he was like, I was angry, I was mad. I can understand all of that, but it took me somewhere. Because the Eye on the Prize back in the 90s, I have the Eye on the Prize. I actually have that series. And so we watched that. I allowed my children to watch that growing up. I wanted them to see it, but it stings. He's had multiple times to have voices, and how does he get the opportunity to have a voice over the people that were really fighting? Even at the end of the movie, when he says that, yeah, I did my part, and I was just like, did they really put that in there? How insensitive. Because there's a side on the other side. I'm grateful that my grandmother is not here. She already had to have loss after loss after loss, and then to have to fight for years to try to get some semblance of justice, which we still never have gotten justice, like we should have. But at the same time, you have humanized this person who has nothing to do with adding value to the movement at all.
Did you have you heard, and do you have a response to the argument that I've heard that the point was not to so much humanized for the purpose of glorifying William O'Neill, but to paint him as a negative, as the sort of anti-hero, so that the purpose of closing with him was to highlight the fact that he ended unhappily. Does that
No.
move you? Mm-hmm.
No. And guess what? I'm a really rational person. Like I have empathy for people. I'm very much that doesn't move me. Like I say, I don't have any hatred or anything like that. Or but I'm just like, you did, whether you think that you didn't or you didn't, in the eyes of our impressionable young people, you allow again his persona over and over and over again to even be able to be shown. Like the part, he was my hero. The FBI agent was really? I mean, again, subliminal messages that we're putting in the minds of our young, impressionable Black children. Well, all children, but especially our Black children. Subliminal
It's
messages.
also true. I understand that your uncle didn't trust O'Neill. Wasn't that one of also the last messages he delivered to his colleagues or his comrades in your family, was that he didn't trust O'Neill, and but he had to, but he felt he felt the need to perform his duties, and he was defense captain. He was.
Yeah, that's what my mother has said that, and she's been saying that for years. And so it's amazing, because this is the part that I love, that we're in 2021 now. Because we didn't have some of this stuff 20 years ago. We didn't have some of this stuff even 10 years ago. And so when we did our 40th anniversary memory event in honor of him, we didn't have some of the stuff that we have now. And so now it's amazing to be able to see all the layers of the information, and to even be able to see different people's viewpoints. I recently reached out to Comrade Che Brooks, because my grandson, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it. My grandson is 7 years old. And so he started his own little, ad hoc YouTube channel. Once he gets a little bit better, it's going to get a little bit better. But I had him start doing historical figures and learning about people that he didn't know about. And so we reached out to Comrade Brooks to see if he could interview him, so that we start getting all of this information, so that we start our young people are not left devoid for these crazy history books to be able to tell them some history that's not even history. We got to get it from the real live mouths while they're here.
Please do share the link, at some point. I'd love to see it and share it, and maybe even invite some partnership. I think that'd be pretty dope. Anyway, but please at least let us know about that the YouTube channel project and the interviewing, because I agree with you in terms of the history and the focus of it, for sure. I did want to quickly return to this issue of the not being contacted by the filmmakers or the project at all. Did you want to elaborate on that, or did you have any points you wanted to raise about that?
No, I just said it is what it is.
Okay.
Like, I mean, they have the right to be able to do this, but this is my piece with it. And again, I said I wasn't going to be very critical, like you said in the one interview that I watched. You said I'm not going to tell people not to go see it, but there is a caveat with it. It has to be some education with it. It has to be some things with it. Again, it was theirs to do. But my thing is, when we are giving something, and I'm sorry, I have to go here. I might differ from some people, but I'm a minister too as well. And so I believe much is given, much is required. So if I have a platform, it's my due diligence to use that platform to the best of my ability to do the best possible and not to do damage. And so I just think again, with all of the things that could have been taught, the things that could have been done, it was some areas that we could have went in a different manner. But no, it was theirs to reach out and not to reach out. It was theirs. That's fine. But my thing is, there were two people that died that day. There were two losses that day. There were two devastations that day. We will never, and I think this is my thing with it, and why I'm so passionate, because my uncle was 22 years old. We don't know what his life would have been like had he been able to live, what those leadership skills would have looked like, what, again, all of that future would have looked like had he been here. So I feel robbed, and I took it personal. I'm not going to take the movement. The movement is really, really important. But I will say that I took it, I'm very close. My mother, it was 18 of them. Um, 7 of them went to adulthood, and I was very close with all of my uncles and my aunts. I didn't get the chance to sit on my uncle's lap. I didn't get the chance to have those stories with him. I was robbed of not just him being able to be an incredible leader for the movement, but also being an incredible uncle, because I had some incredible family members. And so, again, people can do whatever they choose to do. I just believe that you should, when you have a platform, I mean, push the envelope, really push the envelope. And I think, I think I heard Baba Daruba say this. You know, you had the opportunity, but some of the stuff that you put out there is pure propaganda, and you did it for sensationalism. And I think I heard you even say that, for cinematic purposes. And it's a movie. I got that. But when you have the platform to be able to really tell about that, this is one of the most impactful parts of our United States history. Like, nothing can compare to the Black Panther Party for me. And again, I'm removed from it. I wasn't in it or anything. But when you look and you compare all of the stuff, what was happening, oh, it had to totally be shut down.
Mm. Well, listen, the only other question I definitely wanted to raise with you is about where you live now, and that's Flint. And it's a little bit, it's on the one hand a little bit of a a segue to something else, but on some levels it's really not. I mean, because the fundamental issues that your uncle and the Panthers were addressing themselves to seem. So I just what updates, or what would you like people to know about what's going on still in Flint? What is the condition of the water? What's any update that you would want to? I have been following a little bit of the story with the the accusations and the lawsuits, or the trial, or whatever, with the accusations, at least with anyway, with the governor, the former governor, all of them. But anyway, what's going on?
People are still living in disbelief. People do not trust, and I don't blame. And so this has given me kind of a little bit of a understanding, kind of to understand back, that I could place myself a little bit in the 1960s to understand where people were at and everything. There's still a crisis going on. Replacement of pipes and things have happened. You got people that are out there saying that there changes have happened. But the piece that we even with the lawsuits, again, the lawsuits can still never come back and repay what has happened, and the damage, and the people's lives that were lost, the people that died, the people that have been totally affected, with it and from it. My one aunt Rose, that I said, her name is Rose Clark Morris, that she wrote a book too as well about my uncle Mark. She lives here in Flint too as well, and she had hair falling out, and she already had a health issue. Her husband had a health issue, and it just added on top of it. So a couple years ago, they put out this report, and I call it the red dot report. I don't know what the report is really called, but it had a map of the whole city, and it had all these red dots on it. And the red dots were the homes that had certain lead levels, and they were the hot spots basically that they needed to go fix. And my aunt's home was on there. And so I'm literally, and at this time I don't live here. I was commuting back and forth. I came here to work first, and I wasn't living here. And then I moved here about 4 years ago. I'm from Flint, well, from Peoria, and then moved to Flint. And I had been here, but I had moved away for about 16 years. And when I pulled that report up and I seen her address on there, because again, you just click on the dot and it opens up whoever lives there. And well, it don't tell who lived there, but it told the address. And I was like, oh my God, and so just to have stuff on top of stuff. So I can't even imagine what she was actually going through. Because at the time she was writing this book, and so people don't understand behind everything, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of trauma. We need to pull it out, but we really, really need to be advocating. Flint still needs support and help. Our children were poisoned, period, point blank. I worked at the time at a school, small school. We was up to about 220 students at one time. And again, many of them were having behavioral issues, serious behavioral issues, because of, again, the poisoning of the water. And the slap in the face is that here now we have money and funds coming into the city, but the money and funds that come into the city are really not being appropriated into the right places of where it needs to be. For instance, preschool programming. We got preschool programming, but the money is not being sent on the north side of town where the majority of our children have been affected and influenced. And so we still got politics going on in the midst of all of this. And so social justice is still a cause. I'm working behind the scenes. Now, I'm not out front. I'm trying to work behind the scenes, to do some things. And it just angers you. Yeah. Again, it just, see the governor was able just to get away for so long, and even right now, will true justice totally even be done? And so I've become a skeptic. I believe I'm a very positive person, but I'm skeptic when it comes to some things, because is it really, really going to be changed? How do you get away with poisoning a whole entire city? And then how do people walk away from it and move away as if nothing has happened? No, some years have gone by, but people are still living here with the devastation. People are still dealing with the health issues that have been caused. You know, people are still having issues, period. So it's
Yeah,
very important for us to keep that in the forefront. So I haven't been able to go to Peoria, but a few times I do go back. But what I've done is try to champion. My husband and I started a nonprofit here in Flint, and we're trying to work with some of those families, and especially around the area of literacy, and to help our children, and especially now we're in the middle of the pandemic. So just
mm.
trying to help them, because now they have twofold. They had the water crisis. Now they have the pandemic. And so, what is the outcome for our children going to look like?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise up here. I put it up on the screen, and if you have another source, please let us know. But the Status Coup YouTube channel and website have done a lot of really grassroots coverage of the Flint water crisis, and have really shown a lot of, and I won't pretend to be up to date on all the details, but just watching the videos, just what was going on with Rick Snyder, and all of this stuff with the top officials and the phone calls and all kinds. I mean, just so much shadiness and excuse me, and cover up and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just encourage anyone who wants to get caught up and on what's happening in Flint in a way that's not discussed in mainstream news. I want to big them up, because and then it's their channel, by the way, that got the original footage from the oh, you did. Oh, you sent me the link to the historian. Yeah, thank you. But they're the Status Coup site. They're the people that got the original footage from the January 6th Capitol Hill invasion that all
Mm-hmm.
the news people around the world have used in their stuff. But they have been punished on YouTube for airing their own
Yeah.
footage. So anyway,
And
uh,
that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I'm like, our young people, our well, I don't even just say the young people, because we got some old people that need to get educated too as well. But how do we get educated when most people are censored? And then when we have a platform, then you use that platform. If they get you on the back end, they get you. But we need to use that platform.
So speaking of platforms, you shared out, and I'll put the link in the description to this video also, so people can follow up. But thank you for sharing us the Historian Kid channel. I'm now subscribed, and oh, this is dope. What he's got, this is excellent. Excellent. So we'll definitely look to check that out and build on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
he's 7 years old. He attends my daughter doesn't live here, and so my grandson, I'm just gonna be real transparent. He attends a predominantly white school, and so one of the things that my concern was is making sure that he stayed acculturated. Also, as well, is that he's going to get authentic truth. And so that was my way of working with him. So it's like, okay, we're gonna do some videos, and so we started this channel because he loves YouTube, but to keep him, in that mindset. And it's amazing
Right on.
because he came to my husband and I one day. We were walking outside, and he says, "I want some merch." So I'm like, "Okay, we get you some merch. You want to start doing some merch?" He said, I want some jackets, and on one side with a face, and on the other side, we are not half of a person." I promise you, Jared, I promise you, I had nothing to do with that conversation with him. I didn't say anything to him. This was right after the George Floyd thing. And we weren't allowing him to watch TV and stuff. So he was 6 at the time. And I'm just like, wow, just amazing. And so this is why I'm so adamant about just the little bit. If we cover our children and we keep them, they have to know their rich heritage and they have to know true history. And so again, I applaud you, I'm gonna be stalking. Now I've
No,
learned something
we
from watching your
appreciate it,
shadows.
and please come and keep coming back. Just wanted to. I don't know if you can see this, but forgive me if I'm mispronouncing anything. Crystal Hextel Rice just said hello. Wants to make sure you know she's here and shouting you out. Uh, so and anyway, I just want to I've covered everything I wanted to ask you. I wanted to just make sure you've said and or brought up anything you've wanted to, and any sort of closing remarks for now, or any thoughts that you want to make sure that you share that we haven't covered or you want to reiterate.
Well, again, I just want to make sure that again people understand history and understand again, and that's what if you look at my grandson, and he has a lot of video footage. We just haven't had it fixed yet to put them on there, and we do the lesser known people, and to do it on purpose because I understand that. Because again, I'll hear people say, "Oh yeah, Mark Clark, we heard of him," and then all they know is he died. But I want people to know he lived, and when he lived, he made an impact. He was 22 years old. So in 2019 was the 50th year anniversary of their deaths, December 4th, 1969. And so our family had a big 50th tribute. And when we did the 50th tribute, my mother decided what the theme was going to be. And we took it straight out of what they said, unite. We needed to do that. But the lesser known facts was the point that I was trying to make is not understanding some of those people. And so I want to admonish people that are listening, find out who those people were. Find out all of the rich history and legacy. We hear the big names, but sometimes we don't hear the some of the insignificant, what people consider insignificant people, because of their stories haven't been told for various reasons. Most times it's trauma. I was watching Claudette Colvin tell about her story and how she was silent for so long. And even people in her family did not know what she had gone through. And I was just like, how? And then I thought about, well, I understand that. We at a point, we had about a decade that we were silent because we were dealing with the grief and the trauma. And so for people to understand, humanize these stories, tell these stories as much as you can and find out information. And this is the piece that I love about you, Jared, is that I was started reading your book. And like I say, I've been on your platform, and so I'm gonna say this too. Anybody, make sure you subscribe if you're listening, and it not just subscribe, but become a member and support. When we see the things that are really going on that we really compress, become a member, immediately. I didn't even look more into your stuff. When you did that one episode, I was like, member, because this is something that I know that I need to support. And so we can do that with our voices united together, coming together, being able to do those things. It's imperative. Again, I won't keep quoting, but Dr. or Baba Daruba said this yesterday, and I actually wrote it down. He said, we can't mourn, we have to organize. And that
Yeah.
hit, because I was like, well, we was mourning for a long time. But now it's time that we can organize. And now that I'm in a position that I can do more, then do more. And it's time for us to do that. Our young people need us. Our not just our young people, our old people need us, but especially our young people need us. Who's going to lead them if nobody is telling the stories? Who's going to lead them if people are scared to tell the stories? And so we have to share those significant points. When my mother shared that story with me, I realized I was standing on the shoulder of a giant. Now, mind you, he might not have been a giant to everybody, but he was a giant to our family. He was a giant to Peoria. He definitely was a giant to the people that he served. I have a cousin, in fact, that he helped save her life. She had sickle cell and her mom didn't know it. So when he started the Black Panther Party in Peoria, she was one of the first people that when he started making sure that they were the clinic, they were getting the testing and bringing all of that to the forefront. I mean, when I went to Peoria the last time I went, I didn't go anywhere for COVID. So 2019, I went to Peoria like 3 times, and one of the times I went, they were sharing about I had people that walked up to me when they found out who I was like, I was in the breakfast program. He fed me. And it's just like amazing.
Mm.
That breakfast program actually is still going on. That church that started, now they were strong armed to stop, and so the pressure was put on him. FBI did a lot of tactics and a lot of things, and so they pressed upon the city. Peoria was already having a lot of issues anyways. If you go back and look when they were doing the bus boycotts and those things in Peoria at the time, the mayor had the nerve to say, we don't have no problems here. And they were one of the most segregated and had a whole lot of issues inside of Peoria. And so he was able to help bring some of that stuff and make some of that stuff move. He had a youth voice. John Glenn was the NAACP president at the time. He said it over and over again. And I got a chance to, like I say, growing up, hearing him tell that story, that my uncle commanded a presence. When he spoke, older people listened to him. He didn't just have the hearts and the minds of the young people. He was able, again, to command a presence with other people because he had such a heart for the people. And so I want people to realize that and know that. Again, he might not be in textbooks. He might not even make more than a 2-minute soundbite in a movie, but he did some powerful stuff in his 22 years of living that we are still nowadays riding on, walking on, standing on, living in the blessings that have happened from him, not just him, all of the comrades that they laid down their lives willingly. They knew the possibility of what could happen, even those that are still suffering, even those that are still going through. So it's really, really important for us, to understand that. Yeah, yeah. So I'm really much a lot into self-efficacy right now. So you've been challenging me. I just want you to know, my brother, you've been challenging me. And so some of the things I'm working on those things. So again, I can have those discourses with young people so that they know to think, because that's what they did back then, you know. And we've
Mm.
gotten out of that. We just take whatever somebody say, stand up and challenge it. And so that's what I'm trying to teach, my grandson. I want him to be respectful, but at the same time, in the system that he's in, I want him to know his strength, and he's not insignificant because he goes to a school that's surrounded by people that don't look like him, and then they don't even honor you. They did nothing for Black History Month. And again, I got issues with
Mm.
that too. It shouldn't be just a month, but at least in a month, you couldn't read a book, you couldn't do anything. So yeah, his classroom did nothing. And so his mini did. Yeah. So
Right on. Well, I mean, in the tradition of what your uncle and the Panthers represented, I mean, it was that sort of struggle for sovereignty and self determination and do for self to the extent that it's possible, and to force contradictions and to push back and to demonstrate that organized communities can do a lot. So, Brigitte Brown Jackson, I really appreciate you, first of all, reaching out and then coming on and sharing a little bit about your perspective and that of your uncle. We really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And anytime, reach back out. And thanks for the connection to this young future historian.
Thank you. I'm gonna stay connected. I told you I'm about
Please.
to talk. I have really been enlightened and I have grown. Like literally, I promise you, in the past 2 weeks, I think I probably got a master's degree sitting on your campus. Yes.
Wow. Well, we really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I and my collective, my colleagues and comrades are going to continue to try to live up to that. So thank you very much. Appreciate you, and take good care and reach back anytime.
Surely will. You have
All
a
right.
blessed day.
You too. Take care now. Peace. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for that, for joining us for that. And very much thanks again to Brigitte Brown Jackson for sharing a little bit about her uncle. A fantastic discussion, very informative, and just always good to hear from perspectives of those we don't get to hear. That's the whole purpose of the channel and this expanding network. So thanks to those of you who have signed up and subscribed. Zach, for sure, and thanks to brother Kevin for becoming a member, as did Brigitte. So please do click that join button, hit the like button, so that at least if you're watching, hit the like button to help with the algorithm, so the video will be shared and spread a little bit more. And before I forget, and as I did at the beginning, please make sure you are back here tonight, because we have a lot coming up this evening with a very special and live edition of Renegade Culture. And that's going to be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time tonight, right here at the channel. A very special live edition of Renegade Culture, the Black Power Media Invasion. So some special guests, some surprise guests. So make sure you are back here for the live, again, special edition of Renegade Culture tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern is Lukman Nation, the live edition with them. 7 o'clock Eastern Friday, tomorrow, that is the next episode, the newest episode, episode 4, that is, of The Last Dope Intellectual with Dr. Sharice Bird and Stelly. I have seen it. It is, you don't want to miss the premiere. Make sure you just hit all the reminders and all of that, and just be here already, since the good folks at Lukman Nation, the divinely melanated Lukman Nation, will be here at 5 o'clock. Not that that's their purpose or role, but they are in that moment providing the additional function of laying the groundwork for that premiere at 7 o'clock of The Last Dope Intellectual. So, I mean, it's a perfect way to spend a Friday evening as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, please make sure you're all caught up on the rest of the channel. A lot of videos getting uploaded on the channel almost on a daily basis, if not, well, not on a daily basis. So make sure blackpowermedia.org, at Black Power Media 1, that you're following there on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and like, share, subscribe, hit the join button, become a sustaining member, and help us expand as we are ever looking to do so. So that said, like the comrade of Sister Brown Jackson's uncle, Mark Clark, Fred Hampton, used to say to you, we say peace if you're willing to fight for it, and look for us in the whirlwind, like the New York 21, and as Garvey laid down initially. So peace, everybody. Catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like Live.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.